Before we start our summer outings, we'll be back again in the autumn. So this is the last one for now. And we're going to welcome Professor Brian Havel. Brian is a native of Waterford, born here, and was educated in Waterford School. He's been away for a long time now. Very, very distinguished research professor of law, director of the International and Comparative Law Programme, and director of the International Aviation Law Institute. He's also at the Keeley Visiting Fellowship at the University of Oxford, Wadham College, which he terms the Trinity term. Professor Havel holds a master's degree in law from UCD and Columbia University Law School, as well as a master's degree in language and linguistics from Trinity College Dublin, a doctorate degree in international and comparative law from Columbia University, and just spent a crown of oil with barrister law Kings in Dublin. Very nice. Before Brian went to Columbia University, he worked at a prestigious law firm in New York. He has published books and numerous articles on those kind of themes and in that sphere. For Waterford people are probably more familiar with his book Maestro of Crystal, which was published in 2006 and is a biography of his father, the late Miroslav Havel. And that's what Professor Brian Havel is going to be speaking to us about tonight. The title of the lecture is The Life of Miroslav Havel, the first employee and chief designer of Waterford Crystal.
Well, thank you very much, Erica, and thank you for that warm reception. I'm going to talk to you about Waterford Crystal and its history, or at least that part of its history that led me to write a book about my father, as Erica mentioned, which appeared 10 years ago, almost to the month, October the 13th, 2005, and thank goodness it appeared while he was still alive. My father, Miroslav Patrick Havel, the Patrick to be explained later, died peacefully early in the morning of September the 5th, 2008, at his home in Grange Park. He was 86 years of age. It was always a shock to Waterford Crystal customers in the United States, by the way, that the designer of the much-loved and iconic Lismore pattern was actually living in Waterford and was not some historical figure from the 18th century. Let me begin by invoking his spirit through this serene photograph taken in the summer of 2004 in the back garden of his house in Grange Park, a house that he called Domov, which is the Czech for home. And he certainly loved being in Domov. Let's move to the story. Something great happened in Waterford in 1947, something that would change the history of Irish industry and bring the name of Waterford to peoples and nations throughout the world. What was achieved in Waterford in that year was the founding of Waterford Glass, later to be called Waterford Crystal, an international brand name for Ireland, second only to Guinness. In fact, by the year 2000, US market research showed that the US consumers ranked Waterford as highest in quality of the top 20 trusted international brand names, alongside Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Toyota, and National Geographic. The signature Waterford pattern, which it remains today, was launched on October the 23rd, 1952, and is called Lismore, and was designed by my father. It has been the world's best-selling crystal pattern since the early 1960s, and has generated 25% of the total income of the company throughout that time. Miroslav Havel and his mentor, the Czech industrialist Charles Bacik, envisaged Waterford as a niche product, special to Ireland. My father wanted to move away from the tradition which he was trained in Bohemia, and which also existed in the old Irish factories, of covering up every part of the surface of the glass with detailed decoration and very close cutting, and no blank space on the surface of the glass. That's because the glass wasn't very good, so they kept covering it up. In his view, these tiny cuts on that glass blocked rather than admitted the light, and the glass didn't sparkle at all. The new approach would build on existing British Isles traditions and derive from the patterns of the old Waterford factories of the 18th and 19th centuries. In fact, my father went to the National Museum in Dublin at Mr. Bacik's insistence and made exquisite freehand copies of the old Waterford patterns while he was there. What would be different? What would be different in Waterford is that the crystal would be of such high quality that heavy decoration could be avoided and a lot of the surface could be left blank but still gleaming. Eventually, after much trial and error and economic pressure, including the explosion and destruction of the first furnace, and of course the sale of the business into Irish hands in 1951, and specifically to the McGrath family, the owners and founders of the Irish Glass Bottle Company. And because of that sale, Waterford Glass was able to get the money to get beyond its initial product, which was pub glasses for Waterford pubs and hotels, and little souvenirs with leprechauns, made from soda glass, tinted green, not the kind of thing that Miroslav or Charles Bacik actually wanted to make. In fact, I loaned the very first of those little ashtrays to the new museum on the Mall. And so the company was able to transition into the quality, highly decorated lead crystal that moved beyond the old Irish designs while being inspired by them. The company, of course, grew with the expatriate skills of Czechs and Germans, Italians and Austrians that Bacik and my father spent time recruiting, even as they started to train Irish apprentices. Now, Miroslav Havel matched relatively simple decoration with useful function. His designs were right for an age of modernity and functionalism and simplicity, reflecting the emerging tastes of the mid-20th century. But at the same time, he deliberately stayed away from the Scandinavian cult of plain, completely undecorated glass, which was beginning to achieve dominance in the mid-century. That was the secret of Waterford's success, making a difficult compromise between a modern taste for simplicity, but not too much simplicity, he felt, and the luxury and refinement of old crystal. And Miroslav got it right in the Lismore suite. 1952 marked his greatest burst of energy in his career. The great suites that marked the heyday of the Waterford brand name all appeared at that time. Let me see if I can remember some of them. That's, of course, Lismore. Sheila, Corrimore, Hibernia. Does it make you nostalgic to think of these great products of Waterford crystal? The rich variety of the items in each suite contrasted so much with France and Sweden, where the continental glassmakers made a single glass for general purposes. You know, they had one tall stemmed glass, one single tall stemmed glass for the red wine and the white wine and the water. Miroslav suites, and Lismore is the premier suite, were mathematically precise, scaled versions of each other. There were separate stem glasses for port and sherry and white and red wine and long-stemmed liqueur glasses and round-bottomed whiskey glasses and goblets and sherbets and claret glasses and continental and saucer champagnes and hocks for dry white wine and highball cocktail glasses, brandy balloons, cordial glasses. And even, as my father said, for the person who doesn't drink alcohol, tumblers in various sizes from 4 to 14 ounces. It was a brilliant idea. The Americans loved it. They had to buy every part of the suite. But the glass of fashion has changed, and as my father noted, people have moved back to just 1 or 2 glasses for their drinks. He designed relatively small wine glasses, thank you, because the custom was just to pour a little wine in your red wine glass or your white wine glass. And now, of course, he says everybody drinks wine from huge bowls, huge glasses, and they do. And the decanter has lost its gracious allure in an age when people take the wine to the table. He hated that. Waterford, in the Havel years, was always able to drive fashion, not be led by it. What happened to that confidence, ladies and gentlemen?